Alex, if you stay, they're going to kill you. And then I'm going to have to go around and kill all the guys who killed you. Now that's a lot of killing. I'm Liam, he's Rob, that's Dave, and welcome to the Hey Guys podcast. This week, we take a look back at the movie that single-handedly revived the Western genre in the 80s and paved the way for such modern classics as Tombstone, Unforgiven, and Dances with Wolves. Now, 1988's Young Guns might not belong in such illustrious company from a purely filmmaking perspective anyway, but make no mistake, this Brat Pack-inspired retelling of Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County War is one of the most unapologetically entertaining westerns of recent-ish times. Now, Rob, Dave, as much as I loved this movie growing up and as much as I enjoyed revisiting it now, it turns out that I had totally conflated Young Guns and Young Guns 2, right down to the famous line. I was like, oh, the opening quote's easy. I'll make it famous.
Yeah.
It's not in this fucking film. It's in the second one. And I was like, well, I look forward to Bon Jovi playing soon. No, that was Young Guns 2 as well.
See, when you said Young Guns last week, I got pretty excited. I thought, oh, you know what? I can't wait to see like Christian Slater. Oh, no, he's not in it. He's in Young Guns too. I've completely convoluted both films for some reason. I mean, completely. Charlie Sheen was in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's very easy to forget that Charlie Sheen is in this movie because he's not actually very interesting or good in this movie. This film has like a great, famous Brat Pack cast. And one of the most famous faces, certainly nowadays, when we're going back and rewatching it 35 years later, the most famous face is probably Charlie Sheen. And he's just not very good at playing the straight guy. You can just see like he's got nothing to really work with. And of all the characters in this film, I think he actually falls a little bit flat. And I was like, oh yeah, he dies. I don't care. I just didn't care.
I mean, the thing is, a lot more happens in Young Guns 2. And now I know that I remember Young Guns 2 more. We will be covering it at one point, so I won't go too much into it. But not a lot really happens in this film. I boiled it down to sit around and talk, shoot some people, sit around and talk, shoot some people, sit around and talk whilst shooting people. Because that's all they did in the house at the end. They just talk for fucking ages whilst shooting actually nobody. I don't think they hit anybody at the end.
But that's like the classic. It's interesting because when we said we were going to do this podcast last week, one of the first things that popped into mind is like, well, it's not very, historically accurate. It's this fun 80s Brat Pack movie trying to bring in, ostensibly it's a movie made for people who don't enjoy Westerns. And then, of course, I start rewatching it and you start doing the research and you realize it's actually incredibly accurate. And one of the reasons is like the shooting on a fundamental level is that a lot of the shots taken, they were just missing. It's like if you go back and watch Open Range, one of the most underrated Westerns of modern time, they miss most of their shots. But that's exactly what happened. But I was looking, historian Paul Hutton, I was really surprised to hear this, called Young Guns the most historically accurate of all Billy the Kid's films. I assumed it was always like a glorified Hollywood excess movie, but supposedly it's bang on. They even said like there was artistic license, which used it to a certain extent, including the age of John Tunstall, who was actually only 24 when he died, rather than the 49-year-old Terence Stamp. And he was, what is it? He was only 6 years older than Billy the Kid. So there's like little things which weren't completely accurate, but they're really digging down. Like I think there were 11 regulators instead of 6. But for the most part, this film's really accurate to what actually happened. And I think that's the reason the actual pacing of the film is a little bit off and why certain things just happen. Like Alex being ill at the end of the film, it has no narrative impact whatsoever. But I think it's just because Alex was ill in real life when that happened. So they're like, well, we'll put it in the film. So it's a strange one that it's fun, but it does have a commitment to accuracy, which means that some of the, they can't seem to quite decide whether they wanted this to be a fun, superficial Brat Pack 80s Western or if they want it to be historically accurate. And that means you get this weird
historically accurate. Is I'm pretty sure you couldn't hide in a wooden toilet while 6 men were shooting at it
and be fine
and still be fine.
And nobody saw the end of the gun come out to shoot it.
Yeah, that's the scene with Buckshot Robert. Yeah.
Anything. I mean, they flipped over a little trailer at the end. It was just one of the pranks. These are full cartridge bullets. You're going to go through all of this stuff, and that annoyed me slightly.
It's strange.
You called it the most historically accurate Billy the Kid. I did think, no, that was Bill and Ted.
Oh, well, there is that, of course. There is Bill and Ted.
No. I don't know when it came, like, I love thinking back to Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid. When you think of Emilio Estevez, you either think of Mighty Ducks or this.
Mhm.
But my God, he was annoying.
I exact same thing. Fond memories, I guess when you're younger, that sort of slightly irritating character isn't so irritating to
Yeah.
you because it is you. As you get older, you just think that guy's a prick. I mean, he's just annoying.
Yeah, but that's
The
that's
way he
just you.
looks, the way he acts, the way he talks,
Yeah.
just shut up.
That's just you guys getting older, though. Like, that's the whole point. It's like when you're younger, you can relate to him because he is supposed to be,
Yeah.
it's in the name, a kid. He's an annoying kid. Like, they got the weight, like, how many characters, how many of the regulators do they cut to for one moment or another and just say, I fucking hate that guy. That guy's driving me crazy.
Charlie.
That's like his whole shtick.
Charlie needed to shut the fuck up. John Kinney and all that. Oh, it's John Kinney. Oh, John Kinney. It's John Kinney.
Fanboy.
Fat little.
All of them are. It seems like anyone who's a bounty hunter or a tough guy is now just a 45-year-old fat dude on a horse. I mean, who was the guy who turned up and who ended up in the toilet? I mean,
Buckshot Roberts.
he
Buckshot
was,
Roberts.
he was stood there in front of them for ages and they all had guns in their hands, yet he still managed to outshoot all of them and kill one of them. They'd have shot him dead within seconds, surely.
It was strange because I actually love that sequence. I love the aesthetic. It's like a cool little cameo for, I think it's Brian Keith who plays him. And I've always loved that sequence as long as you don't think too much about it. So I'm kind of always cut between the two. Like I appreciate that in, Westerns which consider themselves somewhat historically accurate, that you get these guys where they just start shooting each other from point blank range and they often miss their shots. This one takes it a bit too far and his tactics are mental. So even if I kind of accept the fact that as soon as he pulls his gun and everyone starts shooting, there's an element of panic. And, kind of Pulp Fiction style, there's just bullets going everywhere, no one's hitting jack shit. As soon as he hides in the toilet, though, commando style, you're like, dude, they're just shooting the shit. Like, and he's a big guy. Like, he's got nowhere to hide. There was just no way he's not fucking dead. And he just sticks his little gun out and kills, Charlie Sheen walking up to him, just like, everybody's tactics in that sequence are dog shit. Does it look cool? Yes. Although Charlie Sheen has obviously watched too many 1930s westerns because the way he dies is full Jim Carrey in The Mask.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you could tone that down. But to bring it back to Emilio Estevez, who I actually thought was fantastic in this film. I know you found him annoying, but I think that's part of his shtick.
That's the point.
He did his role, didn't he?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
I think of, in a movie full of stars, and this is, again, a lot of people rewatching now will maybe realize the significance of a movie which starred Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, Casey Siemaszko, whose name I'm going to fuck up. Obviously, older actors like Terrence Stamp, Jack Palance, Terry O'Quinn, Jeffrey Britt. Like, this is like a properly stacked cast for 1988. But to my mind, I know he is the star of the film because he is Billy the Kid, but he stands out like a sore thumb in this movie. And it's strange that when you talk to people now about Emilio Estevez, can you name a even relatively modern film which not only is he good in, but he's even been in? Like, he just seems to have just disappeared off the map.
The Way with him and Martin Sheen. Emilio Estevez directed it. It's great. It's about.
Oh yeah, I know that one. Yeah. But but that's the thing though. It feels a million miles away from like the 80s when he was one of the biggest stars in the world. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like, beyond all the Brat Pack stuff. I mean, what is it? That was then. This is now. The Outsiders, Free Jack, Repo Man, Men at Work, Stakeout. I mean, some of these films are better than others, but they're all memorable to one extent.
I want to know
Ducks,
which ones you're calling better than others. No, go back. I want to know which ones you're calling better than others.
Okay,
I can almost guarantee you're wrong. So which ones are you calling better than others?
Well, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. What is your favorite Emilio Estevez film? Because I've got Maximum Overdrive and like Repo Man down for you. and they're not my favorites, but I'm like, if I was going to guess, I think Rob might pick those out.
No, you're wrong. Judgment Night.
I don't even have that one down. Judgment Night.
Judgment Night with him, Stephen Dorff, Jeremy Piven, Cuba Gooding Jr., Dennis Leary as the bad guy chasing. Fucking Judgment Night is a brilliant film, dude.
Wow. Yeah, again, a deep cut. I didn't even write that one down. I was going to say, like, the thing is, if I
and Men at Work. Men at Work.
Men at Work was dope. Was it with Richard Dreyfuss in Stakeout?
I fucking hated Stakeout.
Yeah, me too. But for some odd reason, the poster of them under the bed just always sticks in my mind. Maybe it was just one of those like VHS covers I used to see back in the day. But I think for a lot of people, he's still the Mighty Ducks guy. I think it's going to be with him forever, basically. But it's the same with and it's weird that they've kind of come to the fore recently because there's a Brat Pack documentary. I think it's already been released in the States, but it's coming to Disney Plus at the start. I think it's like the 6th of June or something, directed by Andrew McCarthy, one of the Brat Pack members himself. And I'm like, do you guys have any attachment to the Brat Pack and the Brat Pack movies? I know I've seen a bunch of them, but I don't have that. And maybe because I was too young, like I was watching these movies as a kid. But when I think of like St. Elmo's Fire, Breakfast Club, The Outsiders, 16 Candles, fucking even something as shit as Fresh Horses, I know these films, but I don't have any attachment to thinking, oh, that's a Brat Pack film. Like that just doesn't work for me.
I do love Andrew McCarthy.
I love Andrew McCarthy.
Not from Brat Pack.
No,
from everything else he's done.
from Mannequin. Just say it.
Mannequin,
not
totally.
Mannequin. Oh, come on, Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Andrew McCarthy, but I don't have. Yeah, I mean, you like those actors separately. I get it because they have done great films, but I've never been like enamored with the Brat Pack films and stuff like that.
I think
like,
we're just too
everyone
young.
loves the Breakfast Club. I think it's
Sure.
subpar. Yeah, it's just not good at all.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Even right, if you take away your personal opinion on the Breakfast Club, when I think of the Breakfast Club, and I prefer it, I have issues with it, but I just think of it as a John Hughes film. I don't think of it as a Brat Pack movie, you know?
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, like, the one thing, at least you had this like interesting collection of young actors, and it's like that just doesn't exist anymore. Like, if you could hand pick people to be like, oh, the modern day Brat Pack, I'm like, I don't even know who I'd pick. For a start, they're all too fucking boring. Like, is there anyone?
No, not off the top of my head.
You would just say,
I
oh,
was
like,
listening to it.
I'm
I love
like,
the fact we're doing a Young Guns film, and because of Emilio Estevez, we've gone straight into the Brat Pack.
well, yeah,
like-
that makes sense. Well, this is a Brat Pack movie. This is like, this.
No, it's
that's-
not. There's one guy from the Brat Pack, isn't there?
Charlie Sheen is in the Brat Pack.
Was
Is he
he?
like?
No, I thought it was. I thought Emilio was. I thought it was Rob Lowe and
Yeah, Rob.
Demi
I,
Moore and
oh, maybe I'm just throwing them in just because they were all kind of youngish actors. I
Yeah, I think
always
that's what
considered this like
yeah.
a Brat Pack kind of movie, but
no,
have
I
I
also
gone
don't
off
think
on a
it's, I
tangent?
think it's just Emilio. I think, like, I could be wrong, but again,
Oh yeah,
I
maybe
didn't
you are.
follow the
Anyway,
Brat
let's
Pack
move
much.
on then. Let's move
Yeah.
on.
I wanted to say I did like Lou Diamond Phillips in this as Chavez Chavez. And I love the fact that they just the 80s, isn't it? Just he looks a bit ethnic, so he's any ethnicity you want.
They make him both ethnicities.
but they make
That's the
him
good thing, yeah.
a Mexican Indian, don't they? Just
I mean, he's a beautiful man, isn't he?
He is
That-
handsome.
that's some hair on him.
yeah.
Oh my god!
Oh, well, a lot of people in this film have I've literally got down amazing Barnett in this film. Like Emilio Estevez is pretty good.
Oh, I don't know what conditioner he's used, but that's fucking bouncy as fuck. That hair.
Oh, like
I
Lou
mean, the
Diamond
hair
Phillips,
I
obviously-
don't want, or the look I don't want, is Dirty Steve.
Dude, I say that right beyond his dirty face and his rotten teeth, because I love the fact that Dirty Steve is even dirty when he's taking a bath. Like he just can't scrub off the dirt. His hair is actually pretty slick too. Like everyone in this film has fucking great hair. It's just one of those things.
I do love like historically accurate and everything like that. Like when they're taking a bath together in the weird rock pool thing. Just let's just strip off and do it. It's absolutely fine.
I never realized who he was, but he's Gavin from Friends.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Literally the only thing I've ever seen him in.
Oh yeah, he had like a little spell. I won't be able to name any of the films, but he had a little kind of like rom-com phase, I think, where he was like not quite, leading man, but they were kind of half pushing him. He never quite got there, but
No,
yeah, I'll
I
always know
think
him
his
as Dirty
renaissance came later in life. Like, wasn't he in Scream? The last Scream, I think he was. He was the
yeah,
copper
he was in the
that.
last Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done loads. He was in that Eli Roth. I think it was him in that Eli Roth Thanksgiving film as well.
Oh yeah, like he's still
yeah.
he's been knocking around for a bunch of years, and he still gets like relatively major kind of supporting roles. But I think he did have like a brief period, maybe in the earliest 2000s, where he was inching towards leading man. But anyway, he's fucking all. I mean, the fact is, as I said, other than Charlie Sheen, pretty much everyone is awesome in this film. Like the only thing I'll say is like as great as say Jack Palance is in this film as L.G. Murphy.
That guy always looked like Skeletor.
I mean, he's got a face for westerns.
Oh,
100%.
he has
certainly
looked
does.
the same forever. I know he was like 90 when he did this film in 88, but Jesus.
You said about Charlie Sheen's death. I mean, he hammed his death up as well.
Oh,
he
he
got
really
shot in the
did.
forehead, yet still managed to pull all of the faces as he was going down.
And he did the
So
turn.
many faces.
And the turn is going down as well. And I love it. He's got all the time. Emilio Estevez, or Billy the Kid's got all the time in the world to go reap it, Murphy, you son of a bitch.
No, and he was literally only a fall off a roof away from every single Western death ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he got them all in.
Oh no, he really went for it. And I think maybe because, and it's one of the issues with the character, and again, to bring it back to the pacing issues, is that because they have so much story to deal with and they don't really commit to anything, even like the Lincoln County War, I feel like everything around that is just kind of like skirting around the edge of the movie. It's never really explained. Even the stuff between what is it? Oh my God, what's his name? The actor.
Tunstall? The guy who plays
Tunstall. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is his name? Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just couldn't think of his name. The whole thing with Terrence Stamp and their competing businesses is like, again, do we ever really give a shit about that? Even them kind of being made like, deputy, whatever, sheriffs or whatever the role they're given. You just kind of like, it's just an excuse to have a battle between the two of them, and it just never really goes anywhere. And I think it is because they're trying to squeeze everything in.
This isn't a thing. This is just me being a weird pervert.
I think you're going to say, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing.
It's all a very nice thing. He's taking young boys off the street and he's teaching them to read. It just strikes me as grooming.
Literally was going to say, before you said that, I was going to say, I get it and everything, but doesn't it feel a little bit groomy?
It really does.
It does.
You do. You guys literally are quoting Jack Palance. You guys are the bad guys. That is literally his line. Oh, you're trying to do something good, but you spend a lot of time with these young boys. Terrence Stamp is fantastic, and he's totally convincing as someone
who's doing fantastic.
Yeah,
but great,
I never question it. No. He's like,
and he's picking every kind of flavor. He's got a Mexican Indian. He's got
a dirty one.
Yeah, dirty one. I'm fucking Casey Siemaszko as Charlie. I'm a pugilist boy. Do you know what that means? All right, and fucking hell, dude.
All I could think of was gladiators.
Gladiator, ready.
Yeah, there is like a bit of they've all got their own little personal shtick, but the only one I'm not really sure about actually beyond Charlie Sheen is, and maybe because he's just playing against character, is Kiefer Sutherland. Like, I like him in the film. The problem is so much of his storyline is tied around a love interest, which doesn't go anywhere. The whole story with him and Yen, or as Murphy calls it, Chinese. Does he literally just call her Chinese because she's Chinese? Which is a fucking awesome villain move, by the way, just being that lazily racist. But
so that's the awesome villain move, not taking her as payment because they stained his shirt.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucked up, the whole thing.
But they let him.
Yeah, that's pretty well.
Yeah.
But I just don't buy into their whole, again, another one of those plot points where it's just kind of there. Do I really give a shit about their love interest where she runs at the end? It doesn't feel like a big moment. It's just kind of.
It also, I know she's scared and everything, but she never really seems that interested. Not enough
she doesn't do nearly enough.
Jump off and run in front of half of the American army.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like a bit of a ballsy move for someone who wasn't that interested in him in the first place.
Yeah, the lawyer do wrong as well. So it's at the end,
outside, didn't he?
Yeah, but he's like, it's all over now. They've run away. He's going, go boys, goes. And he goes, you know what? We got a Gatling gun. Let's just put every fucking round into them.
He did sort of instigate them all being deputized to go and get the other guys.
Yeah.
So, I think he'd rubbed them up enough.
Yeah, he'd rubbed them up, but not the army.
The army were doing what they were told. Because he was having a go at them, telling them to go away, and they just wanted to be involved. Also, they shot the house up quite a lot. Why did they decide to bring the Gatling gun out for one man? Surely, if you're shooting a house up, get the artillery out.
Yeah. So the other thing.
Did they have? Sorry, I was just saying.
Talking about
the end to pull those bullets in. Sorry, Karen. Sorry.
Oh, go on. You go.
No, it's just about Alex. It just felt completely unnecessary. Just to back up Dave's point, it was like they killed Charlie, they killed Dirty Steve, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, there's that unarmed man, middle-aged man who just wanders out. Put the Gatling gun on him. I was like, God damn, guys, fucking tone it down.
If this was in real life as well, Emilio Estevez, Billy the Kid's broken his neck when they chucked him out of the window in the suitcase. Like, why ain't Billy jumping out? Because he's fucking folded like a pretzel. Like, Jesus Christ.
In fairness, it's been long enough since I've watched this film to the point where I'm like, I can't remember how the fuck they get out of this. I was like, they were in the house, they set it on fire. I was like, Jesus Christ, they really are in a fucking pickle. Yeah. It is slightly silly the way they get out of the end. And you get the whole like slow motion thing, which is one of the things which ages this film. I get it. They're going for like a they're trying to evoke Sam Peckinpah, I guess, but like, make no mistake, as decent as this film is, Christopher Kane is no Sam Peckinpah, and Young Guns is no Wild Bunch. But it's a fun enough finale. But it's just one of those moments which just reminds me I'm watching an okay Western.
Yeah, you say you'd forgotten, so as you were watching it, you couldn't remember how they. I've watched the film, a couple of hours ago. I still don't know how they got out of it. I mean, it's a ridiculous ending.
The one,
It
yeah,
is.
the one thing that they hope you forget is how the fuck did Chavez get out of Chavez get out of there, get behind them, get all the horses, and then get in front of the
Of course, it's back to them while they all stood in front of hundreds of men shooting. Which I'll get. The guns weren't as accurate back in the day,
But still,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
get away. But no, that's just stupid. I mean, they're
Yeah,
all
well,
dead.
Yeah.
That's the
They're
thing.
all very dead.
Them kind of coming out the front of the window, which is kind of clever, but they still have to pop out of the boxes and start shooting it. Like you say, what appears to be 100 men, including the army. And they're just like, everybody just watches because they're doing it in slow motion, apparently, as they hop on their horse and ride the fuck off. I didn't even think about how dumb it was that Chavez somehow snuck out of a completely
Sneaky.
surrounded house. Completely surrounded.
I'm not saying that.
Like the wind.
Yeah.
I mean,
It just doesn't make any sense at all.
If it was now and he popped out and he had two Uzis in his hands and he'd spraying bullets at them, you could say, all right, maybe they were all ducking. But he's got 2 6-shooters, which he's going, bang, bang, bang. Nobody's ducking. It's just like, because this dude just popped out of a box.
Yeah.
It's one of the problems, like most of the action sequences, even if they are visually quite enjoyable, they don't actually make any sense. So we've already said about the one with Buckshot Rogers. There's the shot at the end, which again, I like both sequences in and of themselves, as long as you don't think about it. But it's the same when Terrence Stamp's character dies earlier in the film. So for some odd reason, they all appear to run off and play with a butterfly. And he's like, boys will be boys. What the fuck? And as he says that, an entire army of horses
How did they
creep
not
up
notice
on
him
him.
behind him?
Yeah.
How the fuck? And they all just go, whoa, nobody heard them coming. And he gets shot like a punk ass bitch. It's such a strange sequence, which should have been a really cool sequence, because even though he's not on screen much, and I know you have questions about whether his intentions were true or not, I think Terrence Stamp is fantastic in those earlier parts of the film. He actually died much earlier than I remembered, as was the kind of impact I think he had on the film. But even that sequence, which should have been so impactful, I'm just sitting there going, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they playing in the bush? And how did an entire army of fucking goons get the drop on them?
Because they're still meant to be like 16 or 17 or like 19, 20, aren't they? So it's funny. I like what you said then. You're putting that back on us about apparently his morals. He's one of the top 80s films groomers, isn't he? You've got John Tunstall, and then you've got Mr. Miyagi as grooming kids. So
unbelievable.
I'm breaking this up. I'm not letting you two argue about this again.
Well, there's no argument. It's very unpleasant way to look back at these films.
The Tunstall character. Do you think he knew that the last guy who turned up was with a spy? He came from the other
McCloskey.
side. I think he looked slightly shifty at him, but he still let him in anyway.
I don't think he did, because he's trying to see the best in everybody. So I think he's just, this guy realizes mistakes, so he's come to work for us. But he was definitely a spy.
Dude, he was the most suspicious motherfucker who's ever lived. He might have just been winking and saying, why don't we go east instead of west, perhaps? It's like, dude, he's going to shoot you in the face if you say that, you clumsy fuck. McCloskey was the worst.
Him and the laughing dude from Next to Kin as the most suspicious guys in the world ever. Like,
so suspicious.
Yeah.
Do you think he knows? Do you think he knows I've got a wire? What the fuck, dude? What is going on? But yeah, McCloskey, Jesus Christ, he had to do a better job than that. They sent the worst actor to try and infiltrate the regulators.
I loved his little walk up to the house, though. He's walking up happy, kicks a chicken. I
tell you what, though, speaking of unconvincing, and this is going to bring it back to The Breakfast Club, Estevez once again proving that he is absolutely ass at being stoned. He just can't do it. I'm not sure how clearly you remember how bad he is at being stoned in The Breakfast Club, but he's fucking terrible. And in the peyote sequence, where Chavez puts on his fucking face mask and everyone gets high on drugs, everyone else is pretty convincing. I quite like Kiefer Sutherland in that sequence when he's like doing his little poem. He's like, I'm a butterfly. Like I could totally imagine that. And then it goes to fucking Emilio, who's turned up to 11. He's flicking his gun around. He basically was cockeyed and falls over. I was like, the dude just can't pretend to be stoned. It's like that one guy who's probably never had a drink.
Sutherland, they didn't tell him this was happening. I mean, that was that was just them filming Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, that guy just get the impression he's stoned most of the time anyway.
My favorite stone person was Dirty Steve. Guys, do you see the size of that chicken?
So awesome. But yeah, I'd say one of the things, right, as great as I think this movie's fun, and for the most part, it's competently made. It doesn't make the most of its surroundings. When you think of the best westerns, for the most part, you think of like, fantastic cinematography, making the best of the surroundings. This movie doesn't do that. But for the most part, if you forget about the whole, whether they're the Brat Pack or not, and I might be wrong there, these young stars and trying to kind of sell, westerns to a Western movie to a younger generation. The only thing which truly ages this when you go back to it, for me at least, is the score. Well, there's the opening credits, which are very much, we know you don't like Westerns, you're just here to see these movie stars. Like, it really does lay it on thick. But
I said that. They were odd, but cool credits. I like the credits at the beginning.
100%. I got the same note.
Again, it felt like the credits at the end of Predator. Just randomly don't need to be in the film is very weird.
Well, it just places it, like, it makes the film 80s. In a way, the only other thing which really does it is the score. Now, you get the John Kenny chase sequence when it really turns it up, when all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, these guys are on horses, but it might as well have been a 1980s blockbuster. But the interesting thing, if you look back at the music choices, is that originally James Horner was chosen to complete the score for this, and he actually did. And James Horner, for those who don't know, he's done like Titanic, Avatar, Star Trek 2, Amazing Spider-Man, Jumanji, this amazing track record. And they heard it back, and they're just like, nah, this isn't what we want. So they went with Brian Banks and Anthony Marinelli, who aren't nearly, they've done Color Purple, Leaving Las Vegas, but they clearly said, no, we want a contemporary sound. And that is the one thing when you're watching this film, if you listen to the music, you're like, oh no, this is 100% an 80s movie. Make no mistake.
I thought the music was ace, though. I thought it was
no, it's super fun. Yeah. And it makes this movie unique. And especially, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, like, for the 35th anniversary, released a 4K cut of this. And it is legitimately transformative. Like a few weeks ago, we did Road Warrior, Mad Max 2. And I watched that on 4K, and it was like a fucking different experience. Like, it's just, most of it is like, because I watched a bit of Road Warrior on TV, and I was like, fuck, man, this film is starting to look pretty old. It's a
we watched what felt like the 80s cut of that, didn't we?
From 82.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was watching the 4K cuts. I was like, it looks so clean. The transfer was amazing. And it's the same with this. This film never looked as old because, there was a budget involved, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch the 4K version of this, again, it's one of those like properly transformative experiences. And I think more movies are trying to do that to sell like Blu-rays. Like, it's almost like a kind of, like records. You're selling to a very specific market. They know they're not going to sell DVDs to everyone because most cunts are just watching on Netflix. But if you're like a proper movie fan and you're a fan of Young Guns, they're like, no, buy the fucking 4K version on 4K. I was going to say on Blu-ray, but on 4K. And it just looks a cut above, and it really does. It's like listening to music on record versus a compressed file on like Spotify. Like, if you want the quality, it's there. But this film really, while still has its 80s moments, if you watch it in 4K in particular, it almost looks timeless. It's unbelievable.
Was that on Amazon?
I don't think so. No, it was like a high definition one, but it wasn't the 4K cut. Because I watched the Amazon version, and then I watched they had an extended bit of it online that I watched the 4K one, and it looked fucking awesome. Just looked so much cleaner. It's just one of those things. Like I said, I'm not even sure if it's the technology. Like, the fact that it's 4K is useful, but I think even if it was a DVD version, it's just the transfer is just of such a high quality that it looks that good. But yeah, it's just like I said, for a lot of these older films, if it's done properly, it is legitimately transformative. And I think it is, not to the extent of, as I said, Mad Max 2, but still, great looking film all the same.
Going back to do you know what was really weird about this was it wasn't really a saloon scene. Like, usually with Westerns, you only had that really dirty shed bar thing that...
Who's the worst bar ever?
Yeah, I know. They walk in and you find the bar hooker, who seems to have been used by a lot of men. Mm-hmm, and then he goes, oh, I'm going to go take a piss. And did he just go, like, next door? Like, and just pissed on the
It's just a trough.
Yeah.
Through the set.
Yeah, because there's that sequence, and there's another one later on with the Texan bounty hunter, which is one of my favorite sequences in the film, where he's telling Billy the Kid that he's looking for Billy the Kid, and he's like, "Hey, that's the guy," and he's looking in the mirror. That's all awesome, but again, it's hardly a bar. And to your point exactly, it's like you kind of wish that there was that classic saloon moment, but I guess the whole idea is that they never really spend any time in Lincoln City. Like that's where that you would have the saloon, but the whole time they're out in the wilderness, so you get these almost pop-up bullshit bars.
There's two scenes I have a slight issue with. So the first one, when they're going for the first bounty, and he follows him into the toilet and he shoots him, and it's all kicking off. I just love the fact that rather than go out the door, he jumps out the window, which is right next to the door, then lies on the floor in a puddle of piss for what feels like about 2 hours. Yeah, he's just lying there and nothing happens to him. Again, this is all coming back to the same thing. Yeah. The last one was when they get to see the Texan bounty hunter. There is no way in hell a professional killer would just hand his weapon over to someone.
I broke that down as well. Who gives another man their gun?
I tell you what the thing is, right? I bet you, one, he's overly confident. But you've got to remember the idea is that Billy the Kid is supposed to be 16. Of course, that doesn't fly because Emilio Estevez looks about 35 years old. So if he actually looked 16, you can imagine an overconfident bounty hunter might give him his gun because he's the only person who talks to him like he is a genuine kid, like in that condescending way. It's like, oh, settle down, or I might have to pull down your britches and give you a spanking, all that bullshit. He clearly, the idea is that he is seeing him as a 16-year-old. The only thing is we're looking at the screen going, man, Emilio Estevez is 47 years old. So it doesn't really work, despite the fact that the scene is fundamentally pretty cool and well acted. Yeah, why would you give your gun to what is, as far as we're concerned, a grown-ass man?
I love Doc in that scene, though. What's that, Doc? 25? 5. Round up to 10.
Well, that's one of the cool things. The fact that this is, as the historians will tell us, a relatively historically accurate film, which I do appreciate to a certain extent. Because Billy the Kid is so much based on legend to a certain extent and the stories that were told, they really could have gone more fantastical with this. And I think they did. Obviously, they took massive liberties with the second film in particular. I'm surprised they didn't do so more with this film. And that's, I think, its biggest issue, coming back to it, is the fact that it's kind of caught between the two worlds. It's like, do you want this to be a traditional Western, which, fans of the genre are going to look at and go, oh, this is, this belongs alongside, Pale Rider or whatever the latest Western had been at that time? Or is this an MTV Western movie where, I think before you started recording, you mentioned the fact that you weren't even sure if you considered this a Western, which seems strange when you think it's about cowboys, blah, blah, blah. But when you were watching it growing up, I totally know what you mean, though, because it doesn't belong in the same category as fucking Unforgiven or even something which is more broadly entertaining like Tombstone. This does feel like that MTV movie. And for that reason, I totally get it.
It's a young cast, isn't it? And it's people you see in other films that aren't Western. You see, like, John Wayne is always in a Western. It's a Western. It's those same actors over and over again. Whereas these were fresh faces in a film that they didn't necessarily belong to, but they made the parts their own. They did do a good job with it.
And as we were growing up, this was the kind of film that we wouldn't gravitate towards Westerns. We wouldn't watch Westerns, but we watched this because it felt, growing up, it felt like our kind of film, like the action.
It's got a touch of the Red Dawns about it.
Yeah.
It's the type of film that at the time you loved it. Even when I was watching it, and it's probably because Charlie Sheen was in it, but some of the backgrounds are similar, and I saw a lot of similarities in the way it was shot. Absolutely nothing. The film has nothing to do with it, but there's just little cues in there that reminded me of it. And I think we did talk about it when we watched Red Dawn, that we loved it because we watched it when we were younger. If you watched it when you were older, there's so many things to pull it apart.
Yeah,
and I've done that with this film because I obviously haven't watched this as many times as I did watch Red Dawn. So I found it more difficult now to watch it compared to when I watched it when I was younger.
Yeah, but it's a comparison to Young Guns 2 as well, because as I'm watching this, I'm going, well, where's this, where's that, where's this? Because I've watched Young Guns 2 more. So that's so as you watch this then, and it's quite fresh in your mind, you're still pulling things apart bit by bit, because it's not, you don't have the nostalgia that I thought I had with it, because
it's not the film you thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird where it sits in my mind, because I totally agree with you. When I was growing up, certainly like late 80s, early 90s, I wasn't watching Westerns But again, the whole idea that this movie was for people who, for kids, I guess, who weren't into Westerns anymore, because they basically fallen out of popularity by that point. And it worked so successfully to the point where I don't think I thought of it as a Western. Yeah, of course I knew it was a Western so much, you've got all the characters, got all the tropes, but you almost kind of mentally dealt with it more as like just an action movie where they would just play like a kind of, it just happens to be set in the 1870s, but it's just an action movie rather than a Western. Like I said, I don't think it sits alongside its contemporaries. And I always think of this as like the start of the contemporary Western, because, before that, you go back, I know there was like Unforgiven. That's almost like looking back at the spaghetti Westerns of the 60s, and even stuff as, slightly more modern, like the Outlaw Josie Wells and stuff. But of the modern Westerns, and I mentioned Open Range, I mentioned Unforgiven and Tombstone, blah, 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 blah. This film it doesn't sit alongside those. It just kind of has its own strange little niche, and it does work. But I think to bring it back to your point about like you have this nostalgia for it, I think because when you're watching it when you're younger, you're like, oh, look at all these cool young actors and look at these action sequences. And coming back as an adult, you can't help but engage your brain slightly. And as you said, immediately you like Billy the Kid less because you're a fucking adult and he's just annoying. And then all of a sudden you're just thinking about, wait a minute, what's all this stuff about the Lincoln County War? If you had asked me that last week, because I hadn't watched this film for 20 years, you'd be like, oh, remember the Lincoln County War from this film? I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
They didn't have the Lincoln County War in this film. There was no war in this film. It's just
you get the army shows up. That's what I mean. They have things which happen in relation to the fact that this war is happening, and the war is fundamentally based around the two competing factions. So it is Terrence Stamp and Jack Palance. But again, they're at the start. They disappear. Then Jack Palance, this absent villain, kind of shows up at the end of the film. You're like, oh yeah, I almost forgot about him. There's too many bad guys you just don't care about. Like when he shouts out the window, hey, Pippin, you got John Crawford out there? And it's like, who the fuck's Pippin? Who the fuck's Crawford? I just don't know, and I just don't think I give a fuck. So yeah, it is a different movie when you go back and watch it as an adult.
It's interesting though, as you say, what you said then about watching it younger and we're going, oh, look at these cool young actors. 8 or 9 years of age when I'm watching this film, I'm not going, these guys are young. Like I'm not going to go, oh, look at these cool young actors. I'm not doing that. I'm look at these actors who I've seen in previous things. But
that was enough. But you got to think, say that we were watching this realistically 89, 90, yeah? When we were thinking of Westerns in 89, 90, we were thinking of what? Clint Eastwood. I was thinking John Wayne. I was thinking black and white movies. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. If nothing else, I think the real draw of this to us when we were watching it back in the very early 90s, whatever, is just the fact that despite the fact that it was a Western, despite the fact it was set in 1870, it felt contemporary. That was the important thing. That was the difference, and that's what set it apart, and that's what I think appealed to us. Because like you said, we were watching this going, hey, there's fresh-faced Kiefer Sutherland. I was like, that's just a man. Yeah. Emilio Estevez
wasn't your granddad.
Billy the Kid. It's like Billy the Kid. That's Billy the fucking man. That's what that is.
So, but I mean, like you say though, watching it now as an adult and like looking back, they are younger. There, I think it's just thinking. My son had his friend over the other day, and they're only 5. My son and his friend, and his friend doesn't know me as Riley's dad, or doesn't know me as my name. She just, every time she wanted something, she just kept saying, old man, can I have this? Old man, can I have that? Old man. Like, fucking hell.
How do you know?
I would kick that motherfucker in the throat.
Like, my son, a week before that, drew on his face. He drew a mustache on his face because he wanted to be like dad. In school, he did this. They gave him felt pens to draw on a cardboard box. And he chose to draw on his face and make a mustache, but it was blue. So why did you draw on your face? I wanted to be like Daddy. I wanted a mustache, but they didn't have grey, so I went with blue.
Oh, that is freaking.
No shit! I got 2 white hairs in my mustache, but he's gone. No, you're grey.
And he's throwing you under the bus like that. Yeah. Unbelievable! These fucking kids are out of control, mate. Absolutely out of control. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap this up? Go on to favourite scenes.
No, I think I'm good. Move on, Dave.
Cool. Well, it's weird because we picked these scenes apart, but my favorite ones are it'd be the showdown at the bar with the Texan bounty hunter, because I think you're getting like peak Emilio in that sequence. Like, he's as annoying as he is charming, and that's like what the character is supposed to be. He's supposed to be annoying, but he's also charismatic as fuck. And I think Emilio totally pulls that off. Emilio, like I fucking know him. It's either that or the show with Murphy and his men and John Kenny and all that jazz. But I'm going to go with the showdown at the bar with the Texan bounce, if only because of his flowing locks. Although Dave has somewhat torn that sequence to bits now. And yes, it doesn't make any sense. But as we've made clear throughout this podcast, most of this movie doesn't really make sense.
Sorry, get ready for mine. It doesn't make any sense. I loved it because it made me laugh for all the wrong reasons. Where it's the outhouse shootout with whatever his name was, fucking the guy who's hiding in it. What was his name? What do you call him?
Oh, Buckshot Roberts.
Buckshot Roberts.
I'm not going to lie. I
So
was convinced that one of you was going to say the Chavez drug sequence just because they keep saying the line "sacred hoop."
he hasn't said his yet.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, it's the sound. There we go.
It is
There
the
we go.
playout we've seen there.
That's what I'm going to say. Every time somebody tries to drop out of the pub early, I'm like, guy, you're going to break the sacred hoop. You have to stay until the end of the night.
You'll have to try that when people want to leave you at 3 a.m.
Dude, you're going to break the sacred hoop. You have to stay and have another whiskey.
Yeah,
you have to.
No one's ever going to stay out that late.
Yeah.
You said about Charlie Sheen not being very good at playing someone who's taking drugs. Did he take
No,
it?
no, Emilio. Emilio
Oh,
Estevez.
Emilio. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Charlie was already dead by then, wasn't he?
No, Charlie Sheen
say,
took
when
the
he
drugs. It
passed the
was
cup, didn't he?
weird. Yeah, because he passed the cup, but then at the end, he acts like he had been on drugs. So it was really weird. I was like,
Just
wait, did he
walk
drink it
off,
or
didn't he?
not? No, because they, to your point, they made a point of them passing him the mug. He like basically doesn't drink it. They pass it on, but at the very end, he's kind of playing like he's on drugs, and I'm like,
I thought he was dead by that point.
No, he dies soon after
Yeah.
that.
Heartburn?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, is that all of our favorite sequences?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. In terms of loves, I know he's a little bit annoying, but Estevez really does stand out. I love the whole cast, right down from the young ones to the older ones. Isn't John Wayne's son in this? Does he play Pat Garrett, I think, in this film? Like another one of those little nods to the classic westerns. But yeah. I mean, whether it be Terrence Stamp, Jack Palance, all of that. But when I think of this film, I still think of the core cast, and the star of the show is definitely Emilio Estevez.
Patrick Wayne. Patrick Wayne.
That's
Pat
it, yeah.
Garrett, yeah.
Number two, action sequences genuinely memorable. We've said, do they make sense? No, but the Buckshot Roberts sequence, and maybe it is for all the wrong reasons, but the taxi bounty hunter scene, the Lincoln showdown with Murphy and the army, they are genuinely memorable. Are they dumb? Yeah, they're kind of dumb as shit, but they're super memorable. And number three, while it doesn't always work, this movie does have its cake and eat it. It's like both historically accurate and entertaining and a bit dumb. And I know I could have that as a pro and a con, but I do think it gives the movie a kind of unique edge. You know, it never kind of veers off into being super dumb or super Hollywood, super MTV. It always has that just enough commitment to like historical accuracy that it reins itself in, even if it does occasionally clash with itself. So those are my loves.
For me, it was the music. I thought the music was ace. I really liked the music. It didn't feel like a Western when you're listening to it, but it was great. The gunplay, I thought all the use of the guns and everything was good. Like you said, the fact that they couldn't seem to hit anybody seemed to make sense because that's historically accurate at that point. That's fine. And I just loved the look of it, the setting, like the old dirty West, as it were. I thought it looked great. I really enjoyed that side of it.
Yeah, I think they could have done a bit more with the visuals, but it's nothing if not competent. And it looks the part. It does look like it was set in 1870, but yeah, pretty decent looking film. I mean, the director isn't exactly known for his fine work. I mean, we've not really mentioned, what's his name now? Christopher Kane. But this is the guy who's, if you look at his IMDb, we're talking about The Next Karate Kid. That's the Hilary Swank one, for those who don't know. That was then, this is now. That's a Emilio Estevez film. The Principal, which I have a bit of a soft spot for, that came out in 87. And Gone Fishing, which for some reason I assume both of you guys love.
I like Gone Fish. I wouldn't say I love it.
I just felt like one of those like niche movies that
Do you
you
know
would
what
have
you're
seen
talking
far
about?
too.
The one with Joe Pesci and Danny Glover, where they get hilarity ensues when the two guys go fishing.
That is literally the synopsis for the film. Two old guys go fishing. It's kind of funny. So yeah, he doesn't have a classic IMDb, and I think that shows on screen occasionally. But hey, sorry,
He loves before Liam.
Like something else to talk about. The weapons. I love the Gatling gun. Although it, again, made no sense. They didn't really need it at that point. Just loved watching it. It's great. Emilio Estevez, again, annoyed the shit out of me, but he did not play the hell out of Billy the Kid, didn't he? He did a really good job of that.
Oh yeah.
And I think the number one thing I loved the most was Lou Diamond Phillips' hair. I
Oh,
mean,
it's
Oh, it was
Oh,
a handsome head of
yeah,
him.
it's a beautiful man.
In a movie of fantastic means, his stands out head and shoulders, no pun intended,
And that-
above all others.
That dude's aged like a fine wine as well. He's such a handsome man even now.
Yeah. And he
Little bit
does,
back.
in fairness, right? I know you maybe don't get away with it to such an extent nowadays, but you can see why he can play pretty much being from anywhere. He just has one of those faces. He's just like, oh, he's just ethnic.
Do you
He's
remember
just
that film?
ethnic.
Do you remember that film with him and Kiefer Sutherland where they got to go hunting for a sacred spear?
That sounds awesome.
Renegades?
I haven't
No?
seen Renegades.
Oh, dude, Renegades is great. And it
See,
it was-
and see, you found it weird when I suggested that you might really like Gone Fishing. And then 2 minutes later, Renegade.
what about then? What about another westernish film? You've got Kiefer Sutherland and Woody Harrelson where they played cowboys who got to go to New York to find the daughter of a friend who's been killed. No? Way Out West, I think it's called, or something like
I
that.
have not seen Way Out
Oh,
West either.
boys.
Gotta sort our lives out. Gotta sort our lives out. What the
Fucking
hell are we doing
Brian
sitting here
shit
talking
'cause I
about
didn't know the Euros was on last week. Fuck off.
don't know the Euros on, but you know those films. You're the backwards one. This is insane. Anyway, let's move on. Hates, number one, as I mentioned, the fact that, you know, it is a pro that they managed to have a historical actually kind of married to an entertaining script, blah, 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 setup, what you want to call it. It doesn't always work. So, like, the details of the Lincoln County War are poorly explained. A lot of those kind of, like you said, you get moments which happen in this film which are clearly there to be like, oh, well, this is how it happened. I think I used earlier the example of Alex being ill at the end of the film. You're like, why is he ill? How did he get ill? It's just because he was actually ill. But it serves no purpose as far as we're concerned when we're watching the movie. So there are those clashes there. Jack Palance, as great as he is, he just disappears for most of the film. He shows up at the start. He's a villain because he's Jack Palance. I always think of him in the start of Batman. Like, I always think of that line when he grabs his shoulders, because you are my number one. Like, he's just got that way with lines. Every line, no matter how friendly he's trying to be, it sounds threatening as fuck. Like you said, he's great, but then he disappears only to have the most dramatic death scene of all time. And number three, the slow-mo and the score, while kind of awesome, definitely aged this movie. So I agree with you. The score is super fun, and I even like the slow-mo, but it definitely puts this movie in a time and place, which maybe the rest of it doesn't. You're saying, oh, yeah. This film was made specifically in 1988. But just one of those things.
For me, I hate Charlie. Just didn't like anything about that guy. He was just a moaning bitch halfway through the film. And I don't
Sorry
know,
to
just
butt
didn't
in one last time, because I have to ask your opinion on this because you brought up Charlie. What the fuck was him? What was up with him just randomly getting married 2 seconds after having his whore hug? It was so fucking weird. Like, he went to the brothel to have his whore hug. Fair enough. That's his shtick. It felt like 2 seconds later, he was getting married to a Mexican girl.
I thought there
And
was
it
going to
just-
be more of a story.
Yeah.
There. I wondered whether that was his mum or something. Like
Well, it was
he's like,
really
I know that
strange.
I found out you're my mum. I just want to hug.
Yeah.
Well, it's
You gotta
another one
stop
of those.
butting in. My third hate, Charlie marrying that woman.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Like,
Well, it's strange, and it's another one of those elements of the film which is underplayed, because when they ride into town, they all celebrate them, and I think the idea is that by that point they're seen as these like heroic outlaws, but you just don't get that for the whole film. So they ride into this little town, they're all cheering. You're like, why the fuck are they
Why?
cheering?
Yeah.
And then with 2 minutes later, he's just married. And then he
leaves
fucks
her.
off anyway. It's like, dude, I don't even
legend,
care if
yeah.
that actually happened. It's like, just cut that from the film. It's not required.
I'll start again. Charlie is a hate, especially his death. That
Mhm.
weird fucking John Kinney thing where then they shoot each other and he's falling backwards. Like, again, a Western death. Managed to shoot a guy dead as he's dying. I just didn't like that at all. My second one, the word pals. I fucking hated the way Emilio Estevez said pals. We're pals. You know the true meaning of the word pals. Like, I fucking...
You know
Not
what?
for me.
I at no point remember them saying the word pals in that film until they said at the end they scribbled it on his
Yeah.
Yeah.
tombstone.
I
And,
did remember when they mentioned that he did use the term pals maybe once or twice. I wasn't upset about it in the way Rob was. Like, I'd largely forgotten about it. But they did seem to try and kind of like put a certain emphasis and importance on the word, which just wasn't
And they shouldn't...
present for the rest of the film.
They shouldn't have been that tally with Billy the Kid because he was there 2 days before Tunstall died. And they should have gone, mate, you just fuck off on your own. We've all been here longer. Like,
And it started most of the trouble.
yeah.
Again, it's one
and
of those
finally-
things. I think the idea is that more time has passed than is really shown on screen, but whatever, doesn't matter. Sorry.
And finally, Charlie marrying that woman because Liam already jumped in and took everything I wanted to say about the fact that he just went really quickly to that woman. That was ridiculous how quick he married
It
her.
was
and
really strange, really
fucked
strange. Any alternative titles to this film?
we want to let Dave do his hits.
Motherfucker.
I thought we decided that he had said enough, and I thought there was like a word count or something. Jesus Christ! No, sorry about that, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't see the point in Doc having a little fling with the random
Yeah.
Asian woman.
It was totally made up as well. He was supposedly married to a Mexican lady, so they completely made that for the film. Of all the things to add to this film, it's that fictional romance which goes absolutely nowhere.
Which didn't really look like she was into it. You know, it was just,
It didn't, did it? It didn't.
yeah. The some of the fight scenes, just hiding behind a piece of wood is not good enough. You know, if you're going to hide behind something, find something a bit more substantial, at least.
Like a horse.
And this is meaty, you know. It's going to take some impact.
It would do it. It would do the job. Yeah.
And yeah, wasn't much else. Charlie Sheen was quite annoying.
Yeah, but he died. So
He died. So
yeah, yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Alternate titles.
Yeah, we got a couple. So Argentina, Too Young to Die.
Yeah, okay.
Bulgaria, Young Shooters.
No, that sounds like
Sounds
really
like
weird
gay porn.
porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
French Canada, The Prince of the Trigger. I do it all the time.
Jesus Christ,
I do it
Canadian.
just to wind
I
up.
just every time Slovenia and French Canada for some reason. I don't know what the fuck happens to it. It's like,
Because
he has like a
you
minor stroke in the alternative
that
title sequence every
that
week.
vein in your forehead just pops every time. So
Fair enough.
Canada, the Princes of the Trigger. Croatia, Young Gunslingers. Finland, Young Heroes. What else have we got? We got a couple. We're gonna move over. Germany, Young Guns. They fear neither death nor the devil.
It was a long
Christ.
title.
Yeah,
I know, right? And the
Greece.
whole point of a lot of the film is that they are actually quite scared.
yeah.
Anyway,
Not in Germany.
not in Germany.
Greece, New Pistols.
No.
Hungary, Sons of the Wild West.
Mm,
Mexico, Young Gunmen.
no.
Uh,
Do we prefer any of these to Young Guns? I don't think so.
Spain, Young Weapon.
Jesus Christ. There we go. Let's call it Young Weapon.
Turkey, Young Musketeers.
No.
Did they just convolute that Charlie Sheen was in that as well?
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
so.
we'll just put them together. And yeah, that's it.
All right, fair enough. Any facts for this film?
Yeah, hang on. I'm not in my usual place, so I need to switch over to the other.
Well, I can like I may not have spotted because you do see it if you are looking out for it. But Tom Cruise has a minor cameo in this film. Rob will be very happy that he gets killed. Suppose he just showed up on set one day and he always wanted to be in a western, so they're just like, yeah, we'll put you in. It's at the big shot at Lincoln County at the end. He's just one of the guys like outside who gets shot in the slow motion sequence. And
I didn't
we've
see
already. Well, no, you wouldn't know. It's only because I saw a still of it because I was just doing some of the research. I was like, fuck yeah, that is Tom Cruise. I was like, oh, maybe it's one of those guys where, like, if I knew what I was looking for, I would have spotted him. But no, it is a blink and you'll miss it. He just gets shot. He dies. But unless you're looking out for him, you're just never going to spot that's Tom Cruise whatsoever. And we already mentioned the fact that John Wayne's son, Patrick Wayne, plays Pat Garrett in this film.
Cool. Any for you? Any trivia? No. At night, the actors would actually get together to play music and sing. When they were drunk, they'd make Lou Diamond Phillips sing La Bamba as he had played Richie Valens in La Bamba.
At least
Yeah,
he,
but
at
sing it.
least he had
Sing it
played
again.
the character. It wasn't just one of those, let's get the ethnic guy to sing and dance.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Dave just showed me a picture of Tom Cruise getting shot.
Ah, there we go.
When the men are going through the Indian village, Doc is in the front of the group with a cover on his face. It's a stand-in for Keith Sutherland, who had left the set that morning due to the birth of his child. None of the movie's fight scenes were choreographed. The actors just improvised. I mean, if they were choreographed, maybe they didn't end behind wood, so they would be happy. Emilio Estevez was very depressed throughout the shoot because he had recently broken up with his girlfriend. One night, Lou Diamond Phillips decided to play a prank on him in an effort to cheer him up. Phillips at the wardrobe department put makeup on a sheep, dressed it up, and put it in Emilio's room. I mean, they are making him sing La Bamba, so it's widely believed that Billy the Kid's real name was William H. Bonney, but the film correctly lists that as only one of his aliases and gives his real name as Henry McCarthy. He was an Irish immigrant, I think, when he came over. So they don't really tell you that in the films. He's just an American, but I'm pretty sure he was an Irish immigrant who came over, and his family died just as they were heading from New York to the Wild West. Mum died of, was it tuberculosis or whatever they have?
That feels like, you know, you could just say that about anyone in like the Old West. They died of tuberculosis because it felt like if they weren't shot, they died of tuberculosis. It's just one of those things.
Charlie Sheen was reportedly a terrible horse rider. He couldn't keep his balance on the horse and fell off several times. His horse took off after the shootout with Henry Hill and had no clue how to make it stop.
Fantastic.
How do you stop this thing? Fans often ask the actors if they really did peyote. It was actually cream of mushroom soup.
Who actually thought that they did peyote? Jesus Christ. I tell you, definitely didn't do peyote. Fucking Emilio Estevez, I'll tell you that much.
The cast joked around all the time, including making fun of how Charlie Sheen pronounced "Penny." In the final battle on a day he wasn't shooting, Emilio Estevez dressed as a bad guy and fought along with them.
Jesus
So he fought against himself.
Well, committed, I suppose.
At 21 years old, Keith Sutherland was the youngest of the Outlaws.
And yet he never looked young. Again, I think because he just played against, you know, it was, I guess, quite effective, his performance, because growing up, I always just thought of him as, it was a spider in Stand By Me. Was that his name? Ace. Where the fuck did I get Spider from? It was one of those names, you know, all the bad guys in 50s movies, Ace, Spider, whatever. But he was always like, you know, he played a notorious shithouse. But yeah, an absolute sweetheart in this film.
And that's it. We'll end it there with the facts.
Cool. So Hug to the Future. So we asked a question if you could pick between a remake, a sequel, Let It Die, or Leave Well Alone. So suppose I'm not sure. Like as we mentioned earlier, I don't think you can have a remake because I don't know the fuck you'd cast in this film. Like I literally don't know. When the first I was like, oh, maybe like Ryan Gosling. It's like Ryan Gosling's 43 years old. Like where are the young actors? I have no idea.
You wouldn't be able to do it like that now anyway. You'd end up having to have so many women and so many people of different. It just end up a mess. You wouldn't end up with a proper cast. It would just.
I don't even know like young actors who'd be interested. Like you could get no names, of course, but in terms of like genuinely famous young actors who'd be interested,
like Harry Styles,
yeah.
God, and then you'd have Zendaya or whatever.
They tried it in 2001, mind, with a film called American Outlaws. It was about Jesse James, but they tried it again, like Colin Farrell, Scott Caan. And it was not well received, shall we say. It was just too stylized. But they tried that again with young actors and stuff. It just didn't work.
Well, there was obviously a sequel, Young Guns 2, which was soon after this. But supposedly Young Guns 3, alias Billy the Kid, as it's called, is going to be directed by Emilio Estevez, which doesn't make any sense on paper because, you know, as we're informed, he gets killed by Pat Garrett. But the framing device of Young Guns 2 sells the idea that he actually faked his death from Pat Garrett and lived on, I think it was like Bushy Bill Roberts, something like that. So based on the framing device from Young Guns 2, they could have an older Billy the Kid or Billy the Old Man, whatever the fuck you want to call it. He even said at one point he didn't want to call it Young Guns anymore. He just wanted to call it Guns 3 because they're not fucking young anymore. Yeah. That's the point. But he was even talking about bringing back some of the cast members who definitely died in this film. So I have no idea how that's going to work. Like you can make an argument for Billy the Kid coming back, the whole idea that he faked his death with Pat Garrett, bringing back some of the other actors. At one point he said he was going to bring back, what's his name? Chavez.
Yeah, Chavez. Lou Diamond Phillips actually said that he's doing the third one. He's
but he definitely died.
Yeah. He saw the pale horse. Yeah. Come on, he's gone.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. But listen, if you're going to do one, that is the correct answer. Just make it.
Said it was just the framing device. That is the rumor, though. The rumor is Pat Garrett actually never killed him.
Yeah.
He did move on to the fam. So it wasn't just the framing device.
No. It was based on the rumor that he actually survived, which is cool. And as I said, allows for a potential third film. Some of the people he's on about bringing back, I'm like, I don't know how that fucking works. Unless it's one of those kind of like he's imagining that they survived, and I don't know. We'll see. But as to whether we actually will see, but Emilio Estevez, he's got a decent track record as a director. Like I'd happily see that. So that's going to be my answer. I hope there is Young Guns 3, alias Billy the Kid.
I would just leave it alone. It was decent enough. It was okay.
Mhm.
You've already given me the sequel that I preferred, obviously, because I remember
Mhm.
more of that than I did of this. But in regards to remaking Young Guns, which is the question we ask on this, just leave it be.
Oh no, but that's the thing. We're not just on about remakes. Like, so if you could have the sequel, would you not be interested in seeing Emilio Estevez direct Young Guns 3?
No, not
Really?
30, 40 years later. No,
That's
I
the
don't
thing.
want to
I'm
see.
interested enough. I'm not like chomping at the bit, but I'm
Yeah,
like, if you give me the option, I definitely want to see it.
I don't want to see Harrison Ford do any more Indiana Jones because he's just falling over. I don't want to see characters I loved back then. Those actors do that again. Moving on, that's not what I want to see. I don't want to
That's
see the
different though.
geriatric side of it anymore. Either recast them or
Oh
leave it alone.
no, that's apples to oranges though, because the whole idea with Harrison Ford is that he's this heroic figure. He's very, he runs around a lot. Like a lot of his stuff is stunt work. The idea of the aging gunslinger, that's as old as, movies itself or storytelling. It's like, and one, he's not 8 years old, but like the idea of like him still being a bit of a gunslinger at like 60 years old, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in that. 100%.
Nah,
Like,
not for me.
like the whole thing is like one of the best westerns ever made is Unforgiven, and that is about a very old Clint Eastwood.
That's all bullshit on that
Why would you call bullshit on that?
because I've never seen it because it looks boring as fuck.
Well, one, you've never seen it, so your opinion is
No, I
null
call
and
bullshit
void.
because it looks boring as fuck because you got some old guys doing fuck all in the film. It looks boring.
Yeah, but you're calling bullshit. But one, you've never seen it, and two, there's so much proof to the contrary. Like the Oscars, the reviews, everybody else's opinion on Unforgiven, which says
Good
it's an
for the
absolute
Oscars.
classic.
Good for the Oscars because Will Smith turned out to be a fucking great guy, didn't he? But the
I
Oscars, like,
have
fuck
no
off with
idea.
the
I have
Oscars
no idea what that's to do with Unforgiven being an amazing film. So
because you always go critics and you always go, oh, they all loved it. Yeah, but they're getting paid to do this shit. No, it's Unforgiven looks boring as fuck.
well, your opinion of Unforgiven, the film you haven't seen, looks boring as fuck. I don't think holds quite as much sway as I've definitely seen that film, and it's definitely fantastic.
I'm gonna watch it now, and it's gonna be boring as fuck.
You've already,
Yeah,
but
but
you've
you'll
already,
make it boring as fuck because you want to win an
yeah,
argument.
exactly, yeah. You
Oh,
just,
yes.
you're just being a contrarian.
Like it.
Now I'm calling bullshit.
Let's go look to the future.
Yeah,
That's-
I just think too much time's gone past. I'm not really that interested in seeing another one, and
That's
I
fair
wouldn't remake it because, like you said, you wouldn't get a good enough cast to do it justice. There's no point.
I mean, yeah. That is the problem. I don't know. I think it's just more like I never even thought like the idea of a Young Guns 3 could even be possible. I just never even considered it. So the fact that suddenly, Emilio Estevez is talking about it, I'm like, I'm interested more in that. I just can't even imagine what it would look like because it would be set at what, like
I'd
turn of the
imagine it'd
century,
be
I
like the
suppose.
latest fucking Rambo, isn't it? It's so fucking
Oh
old,
my god, the
running
latest
around,
Rambo was
doing
so bad.
stupid running places, and just
In fairness, the last Rambo, the problem wasn't the fact that he looked too old. That film was just
Great.
ass.
the fact he looked like his mum.
Oh, so he does start to look like his
The last
mum, but
Rambo was great. I watched that with my mum. I fucking loved it.
No, you didn't.
I really didn't. I just want to
You
see
look like
your
No,
Rambo.
face.
I didn't. Even you saying that, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And I love Rambo 4. I fucking love Rambo 4. But yeah, Rambo 5 was really bad. So make a change. If you could only make one change to this movie, what would it be? One of you guys want to go first?
Give it a proper ending. It felt to me like they had no real way of getting out of that situation. So they all just ran out and then just ran away. And that was it. And you're like, fuck, how did that happen? It just
Yeah.
felt really rushed and ill-conceived.
If I'm gonna go with,
Ill-conceived, I think, is the right term, I think.
if I'm gonna go with making a change, tell me how Chavez got out of the house. Because that guy, it was mysticism, wasn't it? It was just all of a sudden he became the smoke. Like, I don't know. I just need to know how he got out of the house.
There's a lot of things, and that's my thing. It would just be like explain things better. So on the one side, you've got like the history, the politics behind the conflict. Like, do I want to know more about that? Kind of, but really, do I want to explain? Do I want to know how Chavez got the horses and got out the house? Yes, that is the correct answer because I have no fucking idea. It's just magic. Is he magic? Again, playing on that whole like mysticism thing. It's like, oh well, he's half Mexican and half Indian, so this motherfucker knows magic. For sure. Ridiculous. In terms of video games, unbelievably, I don't think there was a Young Gun video game, but if you're going to make a modern version, the easy answer, and the answer I'm going to go for, is Red Dead Redemption. As unlikely as that
I knew
sounds,
that one.
you have to remember, Rockstar actually made a video game based on the Warriors in the early 2000s. So they have previous. The only problem is now they're owned by 2K, who are unscrupulous, dirty bastards. So I can't see them signing off on a Young Gun spin-off. But you look at that game, and again, what we always talk about is like niche DLC. It never got DLC because, of course, they became obsessed with fucking Red Dead Redemption Online, which I couldn't give two tosses about. If you did a story version and you basically used the same engine, almost the same setting, even though this was set, I think probably 20 years maybe before Red Dead 2, you bring back all the characters, get them to do the voice work, it'd be fucking amazing. But it's never going to happen. But that's what I'd want, of course.
I knew you were going to go Red Dead, so I wanted to go somewhere else just to have a bit of to and fro. I would have gone Gun, 2005, done by Neversoft.
I really like that game.
I love that game. Those, and it's kind of the same premise where the guy gets screwed over and then he's got to go hunting all these people that they've done in the film. So I would have gone Gun.
I remember really enjoying that game. Obviously, when people just think of Westerns now, and I did take the lazy option, someone had to do it and say Red Dead. But Gun was one of those games which kind of straddled like two generations. It came out on like the PS2 and the original Xbox, and then got another release on like when the 360 came out. But I remember because it was like upgraded for the 360, it just looked really cool, looked like this brand new game. But yeah, as to whether it's aged well, I suspect not. But back in the day, it certainly looked the business.
Yeah.
How about you, Dave? No fucking clue.
Actually, no, I agree with you. Red Dead.
Oh, there we go. This will be an interesting one. Ratings and recommendations. So, of course, if you want to recommend this to someone, this is available to watch. If you've got an Amazon Prime subscription, you can watch it. I would say 3, and I'm going to say yes, because I think this film is still loads of fun. Watching it the way we're watching it for a podcast, it's very easy to become overtly critical of this film and pick it apart to a certain extent. But the cast is still fun. It's bright, it's breezy. It's like an hour and 44 minutes long. It's got plenty of problems, but I don't think this film was ever perfect or even brilliant. But it was fun when I was growing up. It's still fun now, so I'm going to say 3 and yes.
I'm going to say 2.5 and no, because it's not Young Guns 2.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend Young Guns 2 all day long. I'd say that. I would like
to see it.
Yeah, but
I bet you if you watched it, it would have all the same problems as this film.
Yeah. Probably, but no, 2.5 and a no for me on that one.
Fair enough. Dave?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
2.5 and a no. It was entertaining enough. At no point did I ever think, "Oh shit!" But I just found myself thinking, not a lot's happened for quite a long time, and then they have a little bit of a skirmish, and then they just wander off into the desert.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as exciting as I remembered it, which is disappointing. But I think you're right. I think all of the memories are Young Guns 2, so hopefully that'll be better.
Yeah.
I suspect what's going to happen is going to have all those memorable sequences that you remember, but it's going to be the same old problem where the film itself probably won't be quite as good. Yeah. So I think I will put that issue, but hey ho, maybe we'll cover Young Guns 2 down the line. Next week, I assume we're not doing Young Guns 2 next week.
No, not next week now. So I'll do the usual questions for you and see if you can get it. So the year is again 1987.
This was 88.
Oh, well, the year's 1987. Then.
There we go. I don't know. Sorry.
No. Okay. I don't want to give you the director. You'll get it straight away. I'm going to give you a random star.
Okay.
Michael Winslow.
Michael Winslow, the guy with the voice.
Yeah.
Is this? Oh, we already talked about this. I think we're going to do Spaceballs, right?
Yeah, if I would have said Mel Brooks, you would have had it straight away.
Yeah. I would have got that.
We're going to do the best totally Star Wars film I've ever seen.
Because they've greenlit Spaceballs 2.
Yeah, I just read that today. Yeah, with Josh Gad.
Yeah, Mel Brooks is going to be producing it, despite the fact he's like legitimately, I think, 105 years old. He is old as fuck.
I saw the news come out, and I was convinced Mel Brooks was dead.
Oh no! He's going to live forever. How old is he?
He's 98. For an extra 7 years on him.
I mean, 98's old as fuck, man. Old as fuck. Fair play to him though. Like still involved and unreal. But
he literally he's just recently done History of the World Part 2, hasn't he, as a TV miniseries?
Jesus Christ, there's no stopping him. That's what I mean. No stopping him. This could be an interesting one because I love this film growing up. I have no idea how well it's going to age. And one of the things as well, like with comedy, unless you have a nostalgia attached, it doesn't really work. So I'm glad you're at least picking an older comedy, which we've both seen. Because, if if it's especially a comedy from like the mid 80s and you've seen it and I haven't, it could be a tough fucking experience. But I do have a lot of nostalgia attached to this film. As to whether it's going to hold up today, I have no idea. But I'm sure it'll be fun all the same. Anything else to add before we wrap this up? Dave,
Just
Rob,
more.
anyone?
I've been meaning to do this for weeks, and I keep forgetting every time. We've activated a send us a message on our podcast. So on your podcast downloader of choice, you can actually now send us a message. So send us what you think of the film, what you think of the episode, whether Unforgiven is boring as fuck. Just let us know.
And Rob really wants some dick pics. So, if you could make that happen.
Oh, well, there's that as well. Yeah, if you can send those, that'd be fantastic. Okay, I've been Liam, he's been Rob, that's been Dave, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!